All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going under the hood to look at a hidden battle that's raging at the very core of the crypto world. It all comes down to one critical piece of tech called the shared sequencer. And trust me, getting your head around this is absolutely key to understanding where decentralized apps are headed next.
So let me just start with a kind of provocative question. You're using layer 2s like Arbitrum or Optimism, right? You use them because they're supposed to be fast, cheap, and, well, decentralized. But what if I told you that for most of them, there's a single company that has the final say on every single transaction you make?
Well, that single point of control is called the sequencer. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like an air traffic controller for a blockchain. It's the one that sees all the planes or transactions coming in, and it decides the exact order they get to land. This one job is completely critical to making the whole network run smoothly day to day.
Okay, so to really unpack all this, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the centralization trap this whole setup creates. Then, we'll look at the shared solution the industry is cooking up. After that, we'll explore the two big philosophies behind it, meet the main contenders in the space, learn from a pretty dramatic cautionary tale, and finally, look ahead to what this all means for the future.
So, let's just start with the problem itself. Look, Layer 2s have been a massive win for scaling Ethereum, no doubt, but most of them are hiding a critical vulnerability. They rely on just one single centralized sequencer, and it's usually run by the same team that built the network. This creates a hidden crisis with some really major risks.
The first big risk? Censorship. It's pretty straightforward. If one company controls all transaction ordering, they could be forced by, say, a court order, or they could just decide on their own to blacklist certain addresses. They could block you from using your favorite apps. And that just completely undermines the whole permissionless idea that makes blockchains so powerful.
Second, it's a textbook single point of failure. I mean, what happens if that one sequencer server goes down? Maybe there's a bug, maybe it gets hacked, maybe someone just unplugs the wrong cord. The entire network just stops. It grinds to a halt. Now, to be clear, your funds are technically safe on the main Ethereum chain, but they're basically frozen. You can't use them, you can't move them until that server comes back online.
And third, you've got a huge economic problem, the MEV monopoly. MEV, or maximal extractable value, is basically the hidden profit you can make just by cleverly reordering user transactions. When one company controls the sequencer, they get to capture all of that value. It creates this totally unfair economic advantage that no one else can compete with.
And the knock-on effect of all this is massive fragmentation. Because every rollup has its own little centralized kingdom, the ecosystem has been shattered into what people are calling synchronous silos. Apps on different layer 2s can't instantly talk to each other anymore. This breaks that amazing money Lego idea, where you could snap different DeFi protocols together. That's what made DeFi so innovative in the first place, and we've kind of lost it.
So the big question is, how do we fix this mess? Well, the industry is rallying around a really powerful new idea called shared sequencing. And the promise is that it can rebuild the bridges between all these isolated islands. The core innovation here is a clever idea called lazy sequencing. So instead of one sequencer doing all the work, you split up the job. You have a shared, decentralized network whose only responsibility is to create one single, unified order of transactions for lots of different rollups at once. Then each rollup's own network just looks at that master list and executes only the transactions that apply to them. It might sound simple, but this is a huge architectural shift.
Now, it's really important to understand what this new model gives us right now. Shared sequencers provide something called atomic inclusion. This means you could, for example, buy a token on Arbitrum and sell it on Optimism and be totally guaranteed that both of those things happen in the exact same block. It's a game changer for arbitrageurs, but this is different from the much harder holy grail goal of atomic execution. That's where if your sell transaction fails for some reason, your buy transaction automatically gets reversed. That's the dream for things like cross-chain flash loans, but it requires even more advanced tech.
So this brings us to a major crossroads in how this tech is actually being built. You see, there isn't just one way to build a shared sequencer. In fact, two totally different, competing philosophies have popped up, and it sparked a huge debate about the best way to move forward.
Okay, on one side of the debate, you've got middleware sequencers. The idea here is to build entirely new, separate networks just for ordering transactions. But on the other side, you have based rollups, and their argument is simple. Why on earth would we build a whole new network when we can just use the most secure, most decentralized network that already exists, Ethereum itself?
And as you can see, the trade-offs here are massive. They touch everything from where security comes from, to how apps can interact, to who gets paid, and just how complex the whole thing is to build.
Let's actually put some names to these ideas and meet the key projects that are pioneering each of these approaches. You can think of these as the architects who are drawing up the blueprints for this new future.
So in the middleware camp, one of the biggest names you'll hear is Espresso Systems. They're going all in, building a brand new, high-performance network completely from the ground up. Their secret sauce is a custom consensus protocol called Hotshot, which is designed to be incredibly fast, aiming for transaction confirmations in under a second.
Also playing in the middleware space, but with a really unique twist, is a project called Radius. Their main focus isn't just about being fast or decentralized, it's about being fair, cryptographically fair. They use what's called an encrypted mempool, which is a fancy way of saying that when you send your transaction, it's completely hidden from the sequencer. The sequencer has to order transactions blindly, which is an incredibly powerful way to stamp out toxic MEV and stop people from front-running your trades. Now, let's look at the other side. Representing the based philosophy, we have Tycho. Tycho is a ZK rollup, a type of layer 2, and it just straight up outsources its sequencing job to the validators on Ethereum's mainnet. Now, the big criticism of this approach has always been that Ethereum is slow. But Tycho has a clever solution called based pre-confirmations. This gives users a cryptographic promise that their transaction will be included, and it delivers that promise in under 2 seconds. So you get the security of Ethereum with the speed you need. It's pretty much the best of both worlds.
But look, this isn't just some friendly theoretical debate. This is a high-stakes competition with real money on the line, and there are going to be winners and losers. And there's no better example of this than the recent and kind of sad cautionary tale of a project called Astria.
Astria was a true pioneer in the shared sequencer space. They had a brilliant technical vision, they had a great team, and they had the backing of some of the top investors in crypto. They raised a serious amount of capital to build out their network, $18 million. They were a very big deal.
And yet, despite all that money, all that hype, the project's journey was incredibly short. After raising millions and successfully launching their network, by the end of 2025, Astria just threw in the towel. They announced they were ceasing all operations and shutting everything down. So what on earth happened? Astria's failure was a massive reality check, especially for everyone in the middleware camp. It proved just how brutally difficult and expensive it is to build a secure network of validators completely from scratch. They got squeezed from two sides. On one side, you had the based rollups getting top-tier security for free from Ethereum, and on the other, you had competitors like Espresso using a new trick called restaking to essentially borrow Ethereum security. Astria was caught in the middle.
And this story, the story of Astria, leads us right to what the future is probably going to look like. And it's not going to be some clean outcome where the middleware side wins or the based side wins. The reality is, the lines between these two camps are already starting to get really blurry.
The future isn't a binary choice, it's a spectrum. We're probably going to see all kinds of different applications picking the model that makes the most sense for them. A multi-billion-dollar DeFi protocol will probably choose the absolute maximum security and censorship resistance of a based rollup. But at the same time, a high-speed blockchain game might prefer the raw performance and custom features that a middleware solution like Espresso can offer. There's definitely room for both. And that leaves us with the final and most critical question. As the blockchain world continues to break apart into more and more specialized modular layers, something has to be the glue that holds it all together. Will it be a new market of specialized middleware companies, all competing to become that central coordination layer? Or will we find that the ultimate coordination layer, the ultimate bridge builder, has been right here in front of us all along, Ethereum itself? The battle for the heart of the modular future is officially on.